descending into the seventh circle of hell. Hello, Popper Commander players. So, I never meant for this to be a series, and for every Rules Committee member I add, the more of an anthology this really does become. It is a continuing conversation. I wish that, well, eventually I hope to get us all in a room together somewhere, right? But until then, we'll just have to make do with one at a time. The person I have in front of me, Ruffigan, the man, the myth, the legend. He's been around as long as Derek, right?
Yes.
As long as Derek. So this is one of the OGs of the fam. Today we're going to leverage some of that knowledge. We're going to talk a little history. We're going to talk where Ruffigan is interacting in the webs. If you don't see him on the Discords, he's occasionally in the PD the home base Discord, but not really anywhere else. But we'll cover that as well. So, my man, thanks for coming in and joining us. Let's tell us a little about yourself.
So I'm Ruffigan. Real name's Connor. So I've been playing Magic since like Return to Ravnica came out. That was my first set. Actually, I bought all my cards from a garage sale. So actually, all the cards I started playing with were all from Tempest. I started playing. It was actually 60 card multiplayer. Was the first format that I played when I started. Just a lot of issues with that format. But all my friends they started getting into EDH. I wanted to get into EDH. Found out it was pretty expensive to start playing. So I wanted to find something that was more like within my price range to start playing. Which I thought I came up with the idea of Popper EDH on my own. It turned out there's like kind of convergent evolution. Everyone kind of came up with this idea on their own on the internet. I found out when I actually went to start looking it up. So I started playing it around like late 2014.
Back in the before times.
Yes. And then there wasn't really a whole lot of information about it on the internet when I started playing. There was pretty much just like MTG Salvation. There were a couple like threads on there about it. Kind of a couple miscellaneous threads around the internet. So I made a primer on Tapped Out to try and start like centralizing, like getting people to start playing it on a website that was more popular than the MTG Salvation. And from there, I mean, it's just exploded since then, almost like exponential. It's kind of crazy how popular it is now.
The day we take over Penny Dreadful, you're going to see me doing cartwheels in the front yard. We're close. We're only 1,000 or 2 away. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I forgot what I was going to say. I'm sorry.
It's all right. So you bring up, I recall, so let's touch back. So if you look in, especially on Tapped Out, because for PDH, let's say phase 2. So if phase 1 is the loose, conglomeration of people, phase 1 is where everything starts to aggregate. No thanks to this gentleman and others at the time trying to centralize information. So phase 2 is largely living in Tapped Out. I would say phase 3 is the point where the majority control, right, was so 2019 after the formulation of the RC. And then I would say we're in phase 4 roughly, where you have a diversity. You have not only a deepening of the well for regular PDH, but you have a fleshing out of the competitive side of the format as well. So if you look for anything for phase 2 moving into phase 3, where the rules committee started, and like you're looking for resources, all of that tapped out stuff, there's one name that you're going to find associated with those. Well, there's a couple, but like one name in general. You're partnered with Pod on a couple of things, and I think with Scarecrow and something else. But like combo resources, like in researching combos for the first time for this format, when I came in, I used this man's resource material, over on Tapped Out. So he has been, I feel, instrumental in helping to aggregate and centralize through all of those, Tapped Out posts and forum posts. Because if you look on those old forums, I think the only one that exists still from way back when is the MTG Salvation forum. But I recall, I don't remember what their names are. And if you said like, XYZ, I'd be like, oh yeah. But there were, in the MTG Salvation era, there were a metric ton of other forum related websites as well. And I just can't remember what they were. Salvation is the only one, because it's archived or something like that, that still kind of exists.
The Popper EDH is kind of in a weird area, because like the Gatherer forum shut down around that time. A lot of like the old like BBS forums all started shutting down around that time. A lot of the IRC chats that had people talking about Commander and Popper EDH, all those kind of shut down around that time as well. So it's kind of like the internet itself was kind of becoming more centralized, like moving to like Facebook and Twitter and stuff. And a lot of that stuff is kind of in the ether now.
Yep. And Salvation, I believe, I recall the end of Salvation, there was a big push to move to MTG Nexus, which is a similar forum style website that utilizes some of the same like thread based discussions and that sort of thing. And that was supposed to be the next step, because I think the Salvation guys, the people that were actually running the back end of that, were just tired. And they were moving on, and because like he said, everything was like dying around, it's like no one was going to buy an old forum site, so it just best to let it die. So that it did. I've tried to see if I could find contact information for some of those older PDH threads, to see if I could like reach out and contact them to say, I mean, if anything, like, send an email saying, hey, you'll be happy to know that something that you contributed to in the early beginning is now this like whole ass thing. Right. So yeah, it'd be cool to do that. Alas, that's not easy to get a hold of them. So yeah. Okay. So you already fleshed out the fact that you were instrumental. Yeah, I'm putting words in your mouth. That you were instrumental in leading the charge. See, I know the real deal here. In getting that information into one centralized location and what have you. We all know that Tapped Out and other like forums have been somewhat on the decline, and I think it's too related to the problem of back end. People come on board for cheap to take care of all of these back end needs, and it's just really difficult to do. So as we move into the the Moxfield portion of this era, you are basically like, let's see, you don't have Twitter, but you have the Reddit.
Yes. Myself and Alcadron and Scarecrow are all moderators on the Reddit. I'm also on the competitive Popper EDH Reddit that you run as well. You can find me on pretty much all the Magic subreddits on there.
So if it happens on Reddit, you can't get past this guy. So, have you interacted? Because so to kind of help the viewers round this out, we'll talk about this more when Pod comes on. Hopefully, knock on some another episode. But so myself, I am, I do the Twitter thing, but it's not my favorite thing, but I do the Twitter thing, but I'm largely engaged in the YouTubes and the Discords and things of that nature. Pod is firmly seated in the Facebook groups and the websites. And then Scarecrow and Ruffigan, well, Scarecrow already is, he's kind of become quite prolific at the Twitters. I think more so than any of us, that are related to the RC anyway. But between that and being with Ruffigan on the Reddits, I think between all of us, the master plan was, there it is again. The master plan was to be able to have the ability to inform, everywhere on the everywhere that's anywhere on the internet, for folks, answer questions, be available, that sort of thing. So let's see. So what's your favorite commander, PDH?
PDH, Marsh Crocodile. It was one of the first decks I ever made. This was before Peregrine Drake was a common, but it was where I discovered the power of Ghostly Flicker. Just like Cavern Harpy, Ghostly Flicker, Marsh Crocodile, flickering some Rotting Rats and all that, beating people to death with my croc. So that one's always been one of my favorites. Phalanx Leader, another one of my big favorites. And the first deck I made was actually a Sea Singer, which is kind of like a mono blue Aikido. Like you run all the Vodalion, can't remember its name. You tap it and you make their lands islands, steal their stuff. So that's always been a really fun one, especially now that Peregrine Drake is a common. You can steal the Peregrine Drake and try and combo off with that if you don't happen to have it in your hand. So.
I would have never pictured you as a combo player. We're all learning something today, children. Righteous. So, okay. How often, because I ask, I think I asked both Scarecrow and Paul and Derek the same questions, but I'm not sure if I did so privately on screen. So I apologize if I'm putting you like actively on the spot in front of millions of people. So how actively, like, do you have a scene? Do you okay? So yeah, I know Paul goes. He's in San Diego now. So I know he goes to places there and he tries to grind out, that sort of thing. Do you have something similar for yourself?
No, I've tried to set up something like that. I live in Columbus, Ohio. So I've gone around. I've put up flyers in all the local Magic stores. I've sat in the Magic stores just with my Pauper EDH decks waiting to play. I've given out Pauper EDH decks, but nothing's ever really started. So it's pretty much just been me playing with my friends whenever they've wanted to play with it or playing online. A lot of gold fishing. But there's not really like a Pauper EDH scene here, though.
We got to work on that MTGO legality issue. Then you can get all the time you want.
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, we'll have to. I don't know. Would you be interested in playing a? Well, maybe not a competitive deck, but in a competitive way, because that's half of what CPDH is intent, right? I intend to win, so not to do like fun stuff. Sometimes you can win and do fun stuff, but also sometimes, all the time it's meant to win. Yeah, we'll have to. You heard it here, folks. We're gonna get rough on a stream. One of the legendary Tryhards streams. Legendary. Yeah. Here I am playing around. Righteous. Okay. So from the previous, here's some good material setup for you. You've watched the previous interviews, and once again, sorry for calling you out, but everyone who comes on for an interview always watches the previous stuff to see what kind of trouble. So Derek was the Derek conversation was born from some discussions on the Tryhard server regarding backgrounds and what it illustrated. Well, not it itself. What it exacerbated was the illustration that of this perpetual. I don't want to say nagging because that's not people in their concern. There you go. Folks in their concern expressing said concern over legality issues with backgrounds. So we've covered that. Paul has talked about the history and like his part in helping to aggregate that history. So there's two good topics, and I think we even talked about the banning of Ristic Mystic and what all that looked around, or what the circumstances looked like at the time of that, and even before that, because they older RC members will readily admit that those were on the chopping block long before the competitive players came on. So there's three topics. Do you have anything that you'd like to add, or we can do something different?
I mean, we can start with the common backgrounds, I guess, and we can just kind of go from there.
Right on.
So, well, the common backgrounds. I mean, you were part of this conversation, but I was originally for allowing the common backgrounds, and it was actually a kind of a last minute change with people talking about it setting a precedent for allowing any common in the command zone. And I actually wanted to play with the common background, but to me it was more of how do you integrate that into the rules without allowing any common in the command zone. And I mean that could be just as simple as, just saying any common or uncommon backgrounds could be your commander. But to me it was really just an issue of rules consistency rather than my personal opinion on wanting to play with them or not.
So the argument of, so if we went for PDH, if we said anything that was eligible to be your commander could be in the command zone, then that would make things problematic with our already, any uncommon creature can be your commander. Now we have a conflict born there just by introducing something that would be otherwise standardized or normal in regular EDH. I see. Man, every single time we talk about this subject thus far, there's always been a slightly different perspective, a slightly different slice of the pie. Very interesting. Very interesting.
So for me, if there was a way to, codify that in the rules and make, because that's, part of why we're here, like to have a rules committee, you need a set of codified rules that are all consistent and have precedent. So like having a way to have that in the rules without conflicting with all of the other rules that are already established. I mean, I would be for allowing them if we were able to come up with a solution to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So to add a little bit more. So uncommon creatures, I feel, so not legendaries, but uncommon creatures are the soul of PDH. And the reason why I feel that way is because in the beginning, and I know I'm doing a little of this, there's some of this is the way we used to do it, but so this is the way we're going to continue to do it. It's not that. Had we known 10, 15 years ago that Wizards was going to abuse uncommon legendary status, right? Had we known, then maybe we would have planned for something different. But if we just switch to uncommon legendaries, then we're basically turning our nose up and away from a significant part of our history that made us different and unique at the time, and still remains different and unique at the time. If to expound on that, if the regular uncommon creature like status, if there weren't regular uncommons that weren't providing value, which we get uncommon creatures all of the time that are providing great value to the format as a whole. So that whole long diatribe regarding the essence of PDH, I feel, being uncommon creatures, it's difficult to turn a blind eye to that history, to that concept, to that contribution to the format for the sake of, because we do. Okay, so you take that, I'm gonna hold this right here. So you take that and you pair that with the fact that we try to adhere to concepts related to regular EDH, right? And by and large, a lot of our rule set does marry well, but this is one place where it doesn't. But once again, we are a separate and distinct format. I mean, we're not talking to Sheldon Menery here. We're talking, well, lucky you. We're talking about a different rules community, a different governing body, a different origin story. Sure, you could say that PDH would not exist without regular EDH, but even then, like some of the earlier PDH games were 60 and 80 cards or 50 cards, or so people were thinking about singleton formats very differently back then, and trying to pair them off of regular competitive formats, even with card count. So, I definitely, even though I voted for, and I think you may have outed yourself on your vote, I voted for common backgrounds. I'm more open to the prospect of common creatures in the command zone. But I'm also greedy. I want all the toys that I can get. So I will readily admit that I might not be considering the comprehensive rules and how I want it because I want it, and I don't care that it may or may not cause a conflict similar or not dissimilar to the one that's already in play here. But I don't know, it's big brain stuff, and I have to allow myself the opportunity to want it, but also recognize that it might not be good. No, because I mean, what is it, Anna? When everyone talks of common creatures in the command zone, what's the one option that it's like a not a Mardu, but it's like a 3-colored option that
with that Tamur mermaid or whatever.
Yeah, so there's then we can have another color combination. Okay. So just wait, they'll print it, So okay, so that's. Do you have anything more for backgrounds? I feel like, as time goes on, this isn't, and also like a timeout for, you folks on the receiving end of this. This isn't a rehashing. This is a storytelling. This is, if you've listened to anything that I've said, I've probably covered, a lot of the nuance of my perspective. I try to afford that same opportunity to our guests who usually they have a, thus far anyway, they've had like a very particular like decision point, a sticking point where they could, like you just said, I could see it from all of these other perspectives, but I can't see it beyond this. And that's fine. I mean, if that's the thing, that's the thing. And that's why we have 10 people all coming together to try to make decisions on something. We're all bringing something different. Is there anything you'd like to add on backgrounds?
I think that's pretty much it. I mean, they're still very playable, even in the 99. So, I mean, I don't think you're necessarily missing. I mean, obviously the decks won't run as well without it, basically being in your opening hand. But I mean, they're still very playable. They're still easy to tutor. So,
and to your point there, had they made the uncommon ones the bad ones, or excuse me, they are the bad ones. If they had made the common ones rather the worst of the two, then we probably wouldn't be having this discussion. It's the fact that the common ones are the better ones, If it were the other way around, nobody would be. Well, I feel no one would care this much, right? So,
yeah.
So there's that. Okay. So where were you? So let's go back to the to 2019 and the great reunification. So for those of you who haven't been paying attention, in 2019, there was a larger move by the I don't know. I think you were formalized before then, but I think it was like this new set of RC members who were attempting to be more public. Paul was involved in like an article, and it was just more of a push to be more recognizable out there in the internet world. So take us back.
Yeah. So we did have other people in the RC at the time. Their names escape me because they're no longer in the Discord. But we had been, kind of codifying a lot of these rules that people weren't really thinking about at the time, like the adventures, whether or not to use promo printings from MTG Online. And at the time, the common ban list between MTGO and paper was not the same. So we also had to make a decision on whether or not to allow those as well. We basically, went to all the RC members and asked them, hey, like we're going to, start being more open, more public. Like, are you guys still as into this as you were before? And kind of got rid of the people who were not, didn't really think they could have the time commitment to be a part of it. And then pretty much launched a new RC. And we wanted to kind of fix the issues that EDH had. They were having a lot of complaints about not taking perspectives from competitive players or catering too much to casual players. So we wanted to, kind of avoid that, which led to us bringing on some people like Crash and yourself. But yeah, I was mostly in the background talking about that. I mean, I don't really want to be a forward public figure.
Bright light, camera. Ooh, gross. Well, the camera loves me, I guess. Yeah, it takes all kinds. Like, I am the first one to say, and I really mean this. I am the fortunate ape, right? The hairless ape that has a microphone and a camera, and I'm lucky that people maybe not like hearing what I have to say, maybe not even enjoy what I have to say, but take the opportunity to hear the things that I'm saying and ascertain some amount of value, or even as simple as like, oh, yeah, that, say like, hey, that guy has an opinion. We respect that. We don't agree with it, but we respect that. So I'm lucky. I think that's my greatest contribution to the RC yet is this. This face, you're lucky. Not you, the royal you, we, no. So yeah, like Ruffigan is not the most public facing member. However, haven't you written a couple of articles as well?
I did. I when the PDH home base first started, I wrote a couple of like staple articles about. I think it was mostly focusing on mono white because I had a Phalanx Leader deck and a Mersmith deck as well that I was really into. And a lot of people weren't really wanting to play the monocolored decks as much. I mean, there's a lot of issues, especially further, the further you go back, there's less and less cards that kind of make those viable. But yeah.
Yeah. In our research, green is the most underplayed and has the lowest associated wins with it. Green. Does that surprise you?
A little. From a casual perspective, that kind of does.
So
I mean, like the easiest win condition is probably combat damage or commander damage. So I mean, having access to big creatures and ways to protect them and ways to get trample and evasion seems like it'd be pretty good for.
Yeah, we've yet
casual.
And by and large, we say this because we Ryan and I have gotten into for those who don't know, Ryan AKA Papa Popper is in a collaboration with this YouTube venture and stuff like that. And we have been trying to take an introspective look into the data that we're collecting. I think we might have even had our 200th game played and recorded. 200. Can you believe that? 200 games recorded. So we're taking that data and we're aggregating it and trying to see if there's anything deterministic in it. Now, of course, it's 100% deterministic of the things we have done. See what I did there? But yeah, like we colored color this last time and it was of great surprise to me. Blue actually is not the top color. We speculate that blue is probably the top support color. So you'll have like blue X, so a blue black deck that's mostly black, but like blue draw and blue counter spells, so I find it interesting that to what you were just saying, that people are leaning into color pie strengths. So, but to that, we have yet to see a green X stompy deck. I mean, mid range is pretty big in our meta. Like we've got Ryan is a huge proponent, contagion of mid. Yeah, a vector of he is spreading the mid range bug everywhere. So it's a real popular archetype, and I'm really surprised that there isn't a green red. Well, you got some control, some removal pieces, but like a green blue or some stompy, and it's probably by and large to attributable to the fact that there's no really good commander. I think you're gonna have to stick to some generic. Although, I don't know, new Tatiova. I don't know. You got to find a commander, because I mean we do have a lot of commander centric synergies. So unless you were gonna do was that a Galandra or something like that, where you're making mana or drawing a card or something like that. Yeah. So I surprised you with data. That's awesome. Sorry, and I went on this hella long tangent. Right on. So with that, I guess one thing I never asked the other two, because they already kind of knew or had already. Is there anything that you see with not just me, like because there's you've got this weird ecosystem where you have the home base competitive crowd, and the home base competitive crowd has a bunch of 1v1 people. There's a bunch of overlap with 1v1, which is its own separate subsect of PDH. And then you've got the same 1v1 people interacting in the Tryhards meta, for the lack of a better term. And you've got a lot of different perspectives that are coming at the game. What has been most surprising to you about the competitive scene as it's developed over the last like 18 months or so?
Really, I think just moving away from combo as like the exclusively what is being played and competitive. And that's really something I've wanted to see basically since I started, was like especially after Peregrine Drake became a common. It was basically, if you wanted to play competitive, you're playing a Banishing Knack combo or a Freed from the Wheel combo or a Peregrine Drake combo. It kind of made the meta feel kind of stale, which is I think why some people in the past were wanting to ban Peregrine Drake or ban Ghostly Flicker. But yeah, it's being fleshed out a lot more, and now that there's less people playing combo, like in each pod, there's more room for other mid-range decks and aggro decks like Zada to actually have some legs, some room to go off.
So like true aggro. There's a Dargo Kedis list offered up by Gatorbait TV. I have seen it dole out 130 damage in 9 turns. Right? So it's like, okay. Aggro exists. So yeah, and I too share that sentiment in the fact that I thought there was something more, and I have been surprised and amazed beyond my wildest expectations. I was just trying to get other colors represented. That's all I was trying to do. It's like, okay, we still don't have that mono green CPDH deck, but we're working on it. We're getting there. We're getting there. Well, I mean, I suppose we do. My bad. It's the flicker. There's too many cards now.
The Tamura Sabertooth.
Tamir Sabertooth. Yep. So, excuse me, there is a mono green CPDH deck. Right on. Well, we've talked some of the past. We've talked about I think you alluded to the some rationale for the Ristic Mystic stuff, wanting to I assume that you were hoping for diversity with that judgment. It sounds like I don't really know how much Ristic and Mystic were tearing up regular casual tables, though. In fact, that's a good answer. If you have anything for that, I don't think anybody's.
Honestly, I don't think a lot of casual decks were running them just because of the price. Like one of the the main things about Pauper EDH is being able to buy decks for really cheap, and throwing $20 at a Ristic Study is basically a whole Pauper EDH deck.
It's like $35-$40 now.
Oh shit!
It's a whole ass thing. Yeah. Derek and I touched on this a little bit. I think now, all right, so don't blow me up in the comments. I'm going to say this thing that I said before again. I think now that the competitive scene has been fleshed out and are increasingly more fleshed out, and the fact that it's not a combo-centric meta anymore, I think we could take the opportunity to reconsider, Mystic Remora, because it don't care about your beaters that you're throwing down, right? So the value is not necessarily there. Now, it depends. If you're playing in certain metas, then it's gonna be Christmas Land all over again. But if you're truly playing, I think, so this is something that I'd be curious to get your insight on as well. There's more tournaments planned. They're coming. We're entering the age of the league. We're entering, because we had leagues locally on our server, but I don't really count those. We're forward thinking in that regard by just jamming games and getting research done and all that stuff. But if you just have one place doing it, it's not much of a trend. You have to see that in other places. But we're starting to see other groups. To put him on the spot, Drac V did a Twitter poll basically saying, hey, if we held a tournament, would you attend? And I was like, yeah, I'm turning up. So we're starting to see other places start to consider at least going down the road of offering more and more leagues and more tournaments. Of course, this affiliation with the Budget Brews, we did that tournament, which, Puzzle and Gretchen, if you haven't heard about that by now, just testament to Puzzle and Gretchen. We got a league coming up with that here soon. I'll be playing Tatiova, making some changes. This is controversial, and I apologize. I've played the list enough that I'm going to start making some divergent changes to the stock list out there. So it won't be a lot. It'll be like 5 or 6%, but just enough to accommodate more of an aggro threat, that sort of thing.
Whenever I would make my decks and play online, the issue I would have is that, when I was playing with my friends, a lot of the decks were more combat focused, creature focused. So I would be running a lot of little ETB guys to kind of block or prevent edicts or whatever on my commander. Going in and playing online, no one was really, everyone was trying to combo or go off really fast. So I was throwing out these little bodies and they weren't really doing anything. I was just kind of slowing myself down. But now that, the meta is kind of branching out more, there's more space to be running all of those cards.
And I think what helped is we started making some generalizations. So I'm going to say it, and of course it's going to make absolute sense, right? So bolt test, right? So we had to start being really considerate of not only commanders that could survive the bolt test, but also impactful creatures. So we too have experience. Like, do you remember that we go through ebbs and flows with it? But do you remember ever hearing of like long grindy games, like 5-hour games and things of that nature? Yeah, it's because we're deploying these like value creatures that don't convert to threats. It's different if you can take a 1/1 and turn it into a 3/3. Right now you're starting to be on the precipice of caving face in, but like 1/1's a winning deck do not make. So we started coming up with these little idioms that we would try to subscribe to in order to, breed creativity, but also like ensure that we were, putting rubber to road and doing the damn thing, as they say. So, yeah, man, I got to get you in a game. We're going to have to make that happen. We are going to have to make that happen. Right on. Well, for those who are counting, we're at 43 minutes. These things usually go for an hour or longer. It just depends on, what you have to say. And I think I should get out of your way. Where do you want to see this format go in the next year?
I just like to see it. I would like to walk into a store and see someone playing it just at a table without me having to coerce them into trying to play it.
Okay.
Like I would like, when I talk to people about it, no, like most people have never even heard of it, or they scoff at me when I start explaining it. So I would like to, actually have people know about it or at least played it, tried to play it with their friend group. I like to see more red and white cards that kind of enable more Boros or just white X, red X decks for more deck diversity. Just like more draw in white or even just in colorless on artifacts or something.
Here, let me see.
Really, I just want to see people playing Pauper EDH.
Hello, Morrow. Yeah, design some cards, bro. I think it's going to happen. We talk a lot about the new. It's years old now, but like fire design and even with the implementation of the PDC or not PDC, the 60 card Pauper governing committee, right? And how they're actively tweaking that format. I think that's a tell. I think that is them putting stop measures in place because they know things are coming. And I think they want to have that body functioning and ready so that and practiced, right? So they've already banned like 8 cards thus far. So they want that group well oiled and practiced because I feel this is just an assumption that they know things are coming down because they're looking at format or they're looking at cards 2.5 years down the road. So they know what's coming. And I think it's going to most greatly impact 60 card, hence the formation of this group, yada, yada, yada. This is me being a conspiracy theorist, but I'm getting it on tape now. So that way in a year when I'm right, I can go, hey, that guy was right. 60 yards. So white.
And I mean, you can even see them like even just in the brothers lore, like the like bitter reunion or the airlift chaplain or recommission are all just value cards and colors that don't normally get them. And I feel like we're going to moving forward, we're going to get 2 or 3 of those in every set. I mean, there's a lot of sets coming out.
You didn't even mention the what's that 4 mana cost? Was it 3 mana cost? The new survival cachet, the one that draws a card then gains life for cards. Like that is mono white, draw a card, instant speed, and it's like 3 mana. It's happening. It's happening, and it's got an associated like trailing ability that's not irrelevant. Gain life in a white spell. It's happening. Let's shift gears a little. What is the most asked question on Reddit?
Honestly, it's probably about the common backgrounds. Very, very contentious issue.
Once a week, you need to stop asking the question. I gotta eat over here.
But also just people, asking, why are we allowed to use any uncommon creature as opposed to only using legendary uncommon creatures?
Oh, that's interesting. Has anybody ever written an article on that premise?
I feel like we have. I can't remember. I feel like we do have an article about that.
Because there's a video going around of me showing people how to play digital card using Moxfield's playtest feature to play digital cards on Spell Table, and I made that specifically for people who were asking me all of the time, like, "Hey Clay, how are you doing that?" And I'm like, "Okay, this is how you do it. Step A, B, C, D." And I wanted to formulate the quickest way to get from point A to point B and be playing, right? So is there a way, so maybe not in video, or preferably in text, because text is more universal, and then via text you can have knuckleheads like myself just echoing the thing. And maybe we should reconsider, if we had previously done it, publishing it, just a small little ditty of like, hey, back when the sun rose for the first time, God looked down upon these uncommon creatures and said, hey, today is your day. Go forth, be abundant. Maybe we should put some sort of small origin, story that illustrates why this was the way it was, and, for the myriad of reasons, and then have that as a linkable. I mean, hell, you could, for the Reddit itself, you could actually put it in the sidebar and say PDH origin,
Yeah.
So the reason why I asked that is because I guess I would, if you would have asked me what my guess was going to be, it would have been the backgrounds. That's always a popular subject to cover. But the common versus, or excuse me, the uncommon versus legendary, or non-legendary versus legendary discussion is something that happens often enough. I don't know. I don't get it a whole lot anymore, but when I do, it's just, shame on me. I just explain it away as like, well, this is the way that it is, that sort of thing. But it would be nice, if one of us, and maybe collectively, we could get together and put together a small, paragraph or something like that explaining XYZ, and then go, hey, here's this reference, create a library of references. Because I don't even think, and for the record, and correct me if I'm incorrect, the home base itself does a really good job of explaining the rules. It goes through and it talks about, like you alluded to earlier, it talks about why the Dryad is ineligible as a commander. It goes through all of these case study or case use, for these very specific items. But I don't think we cover anything as far as history. And I wonder if that could be like a tab or something like that. Because I point, for the competitive website, I point, like for the rules and all that stuff, I point back to the home base. We're not having that discussion in CPDH about that. CEDH has been having for like 3 or 4 years now about whether or not they are EDH. We belong to the Pauper Commander community. We are an extension of it, just like, the casual group. So all of my resources for rules and what have you point back to home base. So now that I've talked like for 15 minutes, what are your thoughts on something like that?
I mean, I think that's a good idea. It's just having a whole tab on the PDH home base website about the history of the format, and just specific milestones that happened along the way.
Absolutely. And then, it's linkable, it's searchable. I assume, I wish Pod had like a visit counter. I assume that in the PDH realm, it's the most trafficked website. Of course, actually, between you and Paul, you guys would know, because you guys have been playing cleanup on the back end for some of these extraneous websites. Paul alluded to the Japanese crew over there who's still out on the fringe, but do we have any other strange, weird loopholes out there we need to be aware of?
I mean, I know there's a big scene in Brazil, which I think they operate mostly on like WhatsApp and Telegram. And they're all speaking in Portuguese. So I can't really lurk around in there, but who knows what all that they're talking about. I mean, we some of the people from the Pauper Duel Commander Committee are from Brazil and are representing them in our decisions and discussions. But it's kind of like the Japanese scene where like it's kind of hard to keep track of it.
Well, we do see, who is it? Is it Ambrosio, is that who it is?
Yeah.
There's two, right? There's two representatives that have access to the for those who don't know, and I think I say this every episode, the rules committee has their own distinct Discord server where it's just us and we talk, poorly about each other, which is not untrue. That we discuss the issues and all that stuff. Some non-rules committee members are invited because they're serving as a liaison type role or just giving us information. And I think we still have two members from the Brazil crew that are in there. Of course, the language barrier, they probably read more than they type. We also have a couple of web developers that are doing our work for us for Scryfall. I helped with the original thing, and then after that, I'm like, yo, I'm out. So yeah, like regarding the Brazil folks, they have a website. They have that they post articles to, and we can get a sense of what they're doing and how they're treating it based on the information that they're reporting out to the world. For assumedly for their fan base there. Something I haven't checked out in probably a year now. I should probably do that. I wonder if we have. Do you know the link to the website that they? Because you can use Google Translate to translate into English, and they are, as I recall, they were pretty prolific in their writing, putting out like an article a week, sometimes even two.
Yeah. I think it's MTG Realm.
MTG Round.
MTG Realm.
Realm, yes. MTGcardsrealm.com. Yes. I think this is it. I'll link it. Yeah, because it's got all the various languages and stuff like that. I think they just use a built-in translator to translate that. I'll drop cardsrealm.com into the description of it, so you can go check it. Like, it's a man, they are prolific. It covers all of the things that they play, so you'll have to specifically look for the PDH content under that umbrella. But they put out a lot of content, and you can see the things that they're interested in. Sometimes they do, like if we put out like, the Mystic Ristic ban article that we wrote up, or even the Commons article that the backgrounds article that Al drafted up. I think they did something like a sister article that referenced that, just kind of parroting that kind of stuff. So any big information, that's, now that I'm thinking about it, that's good news. So they value us enough that whenever we put some information out into the world, they are parroting that information for their crew. So things are looking up. I never thought about that until right now.
Yeah, and that was another thing. Like when they came to us to talk about that, they kind of said, there's no South American representation in EDH in general in terms of rules and making events and distribution of content. So it was cool to bring them in, into the fold, and that's a massive amount of people that we're now being exposed to.
So that said, if you are, and I'll go ahead and take one on the chin, and I think Ruffigan will agree, like snap keep, like when I say it, if you find yourself in Africa somewhere, or we already got a couple of knuckleheads from Australia, but even Japan, like, who already has, if they want to go rogue and not follow the Japanese model, if you feel like you are not being represented or what have you, reach out to us. Let's see what we can do to build those bridges. This format is about love and appreciation of the player and the play group, even more so than regular commander / EDH, I think. not to make us sound all pretentious, but I mean, it's basically a bunch of commons. What's the floor pile meta? No, floor meta. We even have a meme inside of this format called floor meta, and it's basically whatever common cards are laying on the floor, you put them together into a deck and you play them. Commander ain't got that, so right on. Well, we've kind of creeped up onto the hour mark. Did you want to take a few minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, however long you have the floor, my good friend, to say anything that you'd like, direct the conversation how you want?
So I don't really have anything particular that to bring up.
So I already knew this about my homie here. He's not much of a public speaker, and that's great. He has been. I'm gonna tout him for him. This guy right here has been instrumental behind the scenes, greasing the skids, making sure the gears turn. There hasn't been one facet of the stuff that we do on the back end that he hasn't helped run more efficiently, run more smoothly. Anytime that there's like difference of opinion, how about that? And I was going to say conflict. Anytime there's like a difference of opinion, he's right there with Paul, helping work things out, getting us, the royal us, not just me, getting all of us back onto the same page and helping, directing us in a way, asking the smart questions, all of that stuff. Like he'd never say it himself, but he is all of these things. And if you want to interact with him on a more personal level, he is in the Tryhards Discord. He is also in the home base Discord. Hit that little @ symbol, Ruffigan. Boom. Say, hey, bro, you said this thing. What gives? Defend yourself. Prepare to fight. No, don't do that. That's harassment. You can also catch him on the Reddit, where he is most active. I'm sure you're commenting at least a couple times a day on that. So if you want to interact with this guy, like say, hey, you said a thing. I really appreciate the thing that you said. Here's some love and appreciation. Please do that. We all need to feed and water our RC members and make sure they grow. Show them a little sunshine, right? We are people too. So, dude, thanks for coming on. This is my first time seeing his face. I am fangirling the hell right now. Like he's such a
the veil's been pulled. So
yeah, he's such a handsome guy. Look at him. I'm all verklempt with his vest and his stuff. It's awesome. Righteous. Well, thank you, my friend. You have been. I truly mean it. You have been a stalwart figure, a figurehead, as it were, in this community behind the scenes. And if anything, thank you for accepting this invitation to, come out from behind the curtain, allowing people to see you, to know things about you. Truly one of a kind. We're blessed to have him. Thank you for participating in this with me.
Well, thanks for having me on. Thank you for the kind words.
Absolutely. Well deserved. All right, friends. I think what we're going to do, I'm going to try to get Ruff back. So this is a little bit of a spoiler, right? Alcadron is going to be on a future episode. He's going to be on a future episode that we're going to do live. We might even be imbibing adult beverages. Maybe. I don't know. Who are you? The cops? Nope. Don't care. So I'd like to do more live type of events. That way we're just kind of hanging out, talking about mundane stuff. The goal of this format is right here is to talk specifically about RC people, RC related issues, PDH issues, that sort of thing. The live streams will be more of a casual. The reason why Alk and I were going to go that route is pretty much everybody knows everything about where we stand. So it'd be nothing new. nothing to see here. Move along. So, brother.
I mean, you're both very good entertainers.
So thank you so very much. And we'll catch you guys on the flip side.